beard and make sure everything is good. We'll go live, but we're going to go live anyways. Okay. I think the way with the camera set up, yeah, it's this way.
You forget to put the tag.
Everything. I didn't do nothing. I'm still almost naked. Okay, fine. We're good. That's live, but it's okay. Okay, everyone. Hi. Welcome. This is a little bit of a fast shear, and we're moving in as I go. Okay, let's go back to where we were last week. Oh, no, sure it's recording. Oops. Why does it look so dark suddenly? Did I push a button by mistake here? Did I knock off a button that was not supposed to be knocked off? Hold on, I'm sorry. Ugh. All right, why? We are live. So why did it go off into? Okay, I'm sorry, guys. Okay. Do you see my head in it or not?
Your head.
Okay, perfect. We'll do it. Good. Okay. So last week, so let's go. Last week, we mentioned, to bring everybody back to speed over here. So last week, we were talking about the Rebbe's stunning words in these couple of weeks, 30 years ago, the Rebbe told us some stunning things that should really send us like reeling. And the Rebbe, they didn't just speak about bringing Mashiach. The Rebbe spoke that the Geula is here already. The Rebbe spoke with powerful words week after week after week, telling us that the Geula is here already. Not just that Mashiach is here, but in a sense the Geula is here. Because the Rebbe said that the only thing left for us to do is open up our eyes. And when we open up our eyes, we will see these words of the Rebbe. Let's go back to the Parshas Vayetze. It was last week's Parsha. In the first page one on the cover, 105, on the bottom of the first column. The only thing that's lacking. No, on the first column. The bottom of the first column.
Oh, okay.
The only thing that's necessary is a Yid should open up his eyes like he should, and he should see already. Everything's already prepared for the Geula. We have already the set table. We have already the Leviyasin. We have already the big fish. We have already the Shor Bar. The party is set. This is the crazy thing. Yidden are already at the table. What that really means is that all Jews are already sitting at the table, which means all Jews are prepared for Mashiach. That every Yid across the world, the Jewish people are already at that table. They're already prepared for the party to begin, for Mashiach to talk to them. Hold on. Yes, that's exactly what we're going to try to explain today. And we're going to stop. No, this is important. We're going to stop insisting that these things are dreaming. We're going to start realizing that the Rebbe would not be telling us fantasy. It can't be fantasy. This has to be real. And it's really, really up now to fully explain. Last week, I was insisting that I don't think that we will leave it in an unexplained form. But as this sikh is sitting in my head for a week, I think it's changing in my own head. I think the problem we're having is that we're looking at these things as the Rebbe has been in some other world and he's not with us. But he's our Rebbe. But Rebbe means that he's the teacher of Chassidim and he takes us with him. That means that it can't be that the Rebbe is giving us something that's impossible for us to live in. So we have to realize that these are instructions for us in a very, very real way. It could be it's going to take us 30 years, and not just it could be, it did take us 30 years.
So you're going back to the Sikh that we learned 2-3 weeks.
Yeah. It could be it's taking us 30 years to catch up with it. But Moshe Rabbeinu said it took us 40 years in the desert to really start hopping what's going on. Okay. So the Rebbe is telling us, but this is the reality that we are already sitting at the table. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean that we're sitting by a physical table? We're just not, we're not tapping in? No, let's see what this possibly could mean. We're sitting by the table of our Father, Melech Malchem Lochem HaKadosh Baruch Hu of the Eibishter, Yachad the Mashiach Tzidkenu. We have Mashiach already, and we're sitting together with Mashiach. And the Rebbe emphasizes again what he keeps on saying in the last couple of weeks, that he's very explicit on who he means. He says in every generation there's someone who's worthy to be Mashiach, and in our generation that fellow has already been chosen. Which he told us already last week that he has been already selected because it started already the Shlach no b'yat, so that's already also fully there. And then he continued, as we mentioned last week, that after 40 years, the Rebbe is talking about 40 years since the Rebbe's Rebbe, since the Friedrich Rebbe's Estalkos, you have already the eyes to see and the heart to know and the eyes to see and the ears to hear. In other words, you have already the hardware, you have already the equipment. In other words, it's like a person giving someone already a computer with the equipment to be able to surf the net. Let's say someone in there, I remember the first couple, I remember in Muncie, the first time I experienced the internet. I went to I don't remember who it was, some Lubavitcher friend of mine or whatever, and he was showing me, because he was trying to convince me that we should buy. He said that and I had not a penny to my name, but he said, let's get together, let's buy kosher.com. And I thought he's such a nutcase. What did he tell me? Let's buy this entity. He says, you know what this kosher.com is going to be in years? You own kosher.com. And I don't know what he's talking about. And I remember he's dialing in and he's showing me, like, you could go to your shop this. For me, this was in 1992, 93. It's just maybe just the starting of it. So obviously, that's the equipment to get online. The Rebbe is saying you have already the eyes, the ears to tune in. You have all the hard, you have the antennas, you have whatever it takes to tap into this reality. The only thing you need to do is open up the program and start running it. Open the program that exists already. Open your eyes so you can see. Open your ears that you can hear, and open your heart that you can know. Know means das. We don't have to say Chassidus. Das means to connect to this reality that's here already. This is what the Rebbe says in this sikh. A week later, watch how the Rebbe progresses. A week later, the Rebbe says, we turn over though just one page. I'm going to skip. Let's go 2 pages. No, we skip. The reason I have this last page is because in this last page, the Rebbe says very explicit words that it's no more an avodah to fix the world. It's a big mistake to think that our avodah is still to remove the klippa. The Rebbe said, and I'll show it to you, it's such clear, because one is going to be very connected to the other. When the Rebbe is saying everything is done and you can already live in Mashiach, and Mashiach is here already, it has to do with one nakuda and one point. The Rebbe basically told us that we finished the entire avodah of zichuch of Gashmias. Gashmias, the problem, what's the avodah? The avodah is the Eibishter created a Tachtainim. The Eibishter created a lowly world. And the Alter Rebbe says about this world, that this describes the world for what it is. He looks the beast in the eye and he says it to us what it is. He says that our world is a world that's mole klipa v'sitra achra. It's full of klipas and full of sitra achra v'harashoyim goyvrim boy, and the wicked prevail in this world. That's what the Alter Rebbe is, a very bad and negative description of this world, because he doesn't shy away from the truth. That's the truth of this world. But the Rebbe and the Alter Rebbe tells us, whatever, this dark neighborhood, this very, 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 what you call the slums of the cosmic slums. That's what this world is, the lowest place of the thing. This is the Eibishter's dream, or here he wants to have a home. So the Rebbe comes in 1950, and the Rebbe says, Basi Legami. The Rebbe says that this is going to be the Eibishter's garden. This very dark place is one day when we get the work done. And for 40 years, the Rebbe sent us out to finish the job, to get the world done. And then in the end, he announced that it's done. So if you take a look at last week's Sikha, the whole, and I had this last week, the whole Sikha of Parshas Vayetze is that the Rebbe is emphasizing how physicality is now just as holy as the Neshama. If you only can recognize that your guf is just as pure today as your Neshama is to be Makabel Elokus. So you say, what do you mean? My guf is pulling me to all kinds of taivas, to all kinds of chazarai. What do you mean? My guf is such a dark entity. Yeah, because that's what you decided your guf is, not because it really is that way. The Rebbe is basically saying that for thousands of years, there was real klippa, real junk that was blocking the physical. But that has been cleaned already. Now, if you're still holding on to your previous view that your body is dark and ugly and lowly and insensitive to godliness and an antithesis to godliness, then you're living in godless. But the Rebbe says, I am telling you that your body is not necessarily anymore an obstacle. Your goof could be just as holy as your neshama. That's reality, because Klippa has already been removed. We've already finished the work of separating Toifer and Ra. To say that, to show you so strong, look at this. Taka, I'm not going 2 pages ahead. I'm going to page 117, the page that I told you before. Look at the line on page 216, the last paragraph on page 216. It's the first page. After our work, after we've done all the work, we've already had the Gilui of Yutas Kislev. We've already been mafarsim. So we finished. We brought such holy, intense godliness into this world. And the Rabbeim packed it on, one on top of the other. You started with the Alter Rebbe, but the Mittler Rebbe comes and increases the Alter Rebbe's work. Generation after generation, till we get to Nasidarenu. Which through him, the Fatzas Amayonis is in the entire world. In other words, it's no more that the Rebbe is explaining how by Yaakov Avinu he thought the world was ready, and in his truth the world was ready, but in the world's truth it wasn't. That's what the Rebbe talks about in Pashas Vayishlach Sicha. By Yaakov Avinu, he thought Esav was ready, but Esav on his end was not ready. But here the Rebbe say, after all this work that we've done in Golus and in the world be'etzem, in truth, is mezuchach. It's clean, it's purified. Like he has notified, that everything is done. And here's the way that you see how the Rebbe is so clearly overlapping himself with the Friediger Rebbe. Because the Friediger Rebbe never said that we finished polishing the buttons. The Friediger Rebbe said that the only thing left to do is to polish the buttons. But the Rebbe is saying it as if the Friediger Rebbe said it, because the Rebbe is communicating with the Friediger Rebbe. They're one Indian, and the Rebbe is saying the Friediger Rebbe said we finished. Nasidarenu. So I keep on telling you, when the Rebbe says Nasidarenu, I'm not saying it. It's clear. The Rebbe is saying I announced this. I told you already. We finished polishing the buttons. Everything is ready. I think this is one of the most powerful paragraphs. It's understood. Whatever the avodah that's going to happen on achrezeh, this is scary, because the Rebbe says la'achrezeh. La'achrezeh is what? What do you mean la'achrezeh? Well, the Rebbe is talking about obviously the Rebbe was talking already in Nun Beis then when he's saying this, and meaning then, but sadly he meant 30 years. That this whole period of time that we're in still now, that Mashiach is not yet fully misakiv, meaning fully bizgalus in the whole world. It's not avodas habirudim. And it's so interesting how this Inyan, which should be now so bepashtus by every single Lubavitcher chassid, at least, and really we're responsible to bring this to the consciousness of every single Jew across the entire world, but at least every Lubavitcher should know this. There's no more birur. The whole concept of lifting nitzutzis and we're going to a place to elevate nitzutzis, that's old-time thinking. That's not what the Rebbe's kept. I'm going to ask a simple question. Who in the world ever saw a nitzutz? Which chassid saw a nitzutz? I don't think anybody. Are people Paritcha saw nitzutzis? I don't know. How do we know there's nitzutzi kedusha in everything? The Alter Rebbe saw nitzutz. The Alter Rebbe said, I don't see the roof, I see the Dvar Havaya. The Arizal saw nitzutzi kedusha. Who told us that there are nitzutzis and there are things mixed good and bad? That's because we have a tzaddik, a channel of Elokus in the world, and they told us this. These are new information that we got from tzaddikim. It doesn't say in the Gemara there's nitzutzi kedusha. That's a Kabbalistic concept who came to us because the Arizal through Gili Eliyahu told it to us. So how are we supposed to know about these nitzutzis when we finished lifting those sparks? How are we supposed to know that? We have to have someone who's standing in the Arizal shoes, who is privy to such information, and he can tell us that the sparks have been revealed. What does it mean to elevate sparks? It means that there's no more husk. So the Rebbe is saying, See, in other times the Rebbe says, "Nestaim avodas habirudim." We finished. What I find in these paragraphs so strong is that the Rebbe is shoylel. The Rebbe says, whatever is left over to do now is not anymore avodas habirudim. What that means is that there's no more klippa that we have to wash away and destroy. What's necessary now is what then? So what then is our avodah? The Rebbe says what? Because that's done already. We can't be doing something that's done already. It's schon abgemacht. Fertig. In other words, sin. Now really, we would think that what? That once we finish cleaning out the palace and turning it into a palace, like the Alter Rebbe explains, mitzvah saseh and mitzvah lo saseh, that mitzvah lo saseh clean out the junk, mitzvah saseh put the furniture that's necessary in. So we would think that the moment we finish doing that, so the king moves in, and he moves in. So the Rebbe seems to be saying that what? No, and that's true. The king moves in, but that we should see the king, and we should all recognize what's going on. That too is an avodah. In other words, we need to participate in the identification of the king of the world. It's our avodah. So it is an avodah. So what is the avodah?
Does the Rebbe say, what's this about?
Hold it. The Yeshloim. Okay. And then the Rebbe, this is phenomenal. The Sikha, I have to say that the Parshas Vayishlach Sikha, I learned it a few times, but not this year yet. So I'm not fresh in it. So I'm not going to tell you what it says over here. But now we're going to continue on to the next page. Move on. One page over on page 119. Move on. From this it's understood. That literally in these days, there says mamish. It doesn't mean b'yameinu elu in a generation or two. B'yameinu elu from when the Rebbe is talking. Literally in our days, all we need to do is open the eyes, literally and to see reality. The poil mamish. And what should we see? We're sitting together with the Eibishter, the Shulchan Aruch by the table, L'sudas HaNesuyin to the Chasana. Which is our marriage to the Eibishter. That's what it is. What's the Suda? Why is it going to be a Suda with Mashiach? Because a wedding has a Suda. And we know that by Matan Torah was only the beginning of our marriage, and let's understand why was Matan Torah only the beginning of the marriage? Because we are neshamas with gufim. And in order to be married with the Eibishter, you need to have a guf that can become basar echad with the Eibishter. You need a guf that's mezuchach that can become basar echad with the Eibishter. At that time, our neshamas were able to connect to Anoichi Havaya Lekecha, to be intimate with God. But the body was not ready for intimacy with the Eibishter. Fast forward 3,333 years later. Interesting today. This is this last year and this year. 3,333 years later, the Rebbe said, well, we've been pouring Torah and mitzvahs onto the body for all this time, so hopefully we produce something. Now you have a body that is ready for the yichud. So now, now it's time for the chasana. So we're already at the chasana, the Rebbe says. The Shoyda Bardel V'Yasin is there. B'Shulchan Aruch Sudas and Sudas, Shebesiyuma, Omer LaKadosh Baruch Hu, Davar Malkam Shiach, Tul Kasher Baruch Hu, Varech, and Ani Varech. Okay. Now, I want to bring your attention to Order 112. No, so then, which by that Suda, the Eibishter says LeDavid to Mashiach. David Malka Mashiach. The Rebbe learns David as not David HaMelech of the past. When the Eibishter tells David who's going to bench, he gives it to Mashiach Tzidkenu. Mashiach Tzidkenu was the one. It's a Gemara Chazal. Chazal say that the Eibishter is going to be Machabit benching. You have a problem. First days I just made a chassan. The problem you have is who you're gonna give brachas to. First days you have everybody. So you have to figure it out. But then there's not even Sheva brachas. At least for the benching, at least there's only one you can give a bracha to. So you give a bracha to, who are you going to give? So they're going to try Avram Avinu, and Avram Avinu is going to decline. He's going to Sheikh Shemzach because he produced Yishmael, and then Yitzchak. They're going to pass the cup around until it comes to David HaMelech. And David HaMelech is going to say, Kais Yeshua Sasso, Li Na Lavarech. For me, it's right to bench. He's going to be comfortable to do Birchas HaMazon. David HaMelech. The Rebbe learns that David HaMelech is David Malka Mashiach. It's Mashiach Tzidkenu who's going to be the one bench. And he's over here. Now, take a look at our order 112. Kloimar. Earlier said, to see the reality. So the Rebbe says in order 12, what does that mean? Kloimar. Lo yizubavat shenishla mahavoida v'tzrichem lifoil hagiloi ba'olam. Here's another thing. Last week it seemed to be mashma, earlier in the sikha rather, and earlier. The inyanim are here already, but we need to affect that it should reveal itself. Right? It's mashma in the earlier sikha. The inyanim are here already. And what we need to do is we need to affect that it should reveal itself. We need to affect that it should reveal itself. Here the Rebbe is saying, no. More than that. It's not that we have to affect that it should reveal itself, because it's already revealed. It's not v'tzrichem lifla gilu ba'olam. Kiniskali el sif yudalef. Those were the words that Rebbe used in sif yudalef, that our avodah needs to be to poil the yizgalus. But the Rebbe says even more than that. El yasedim is that, even more. Sheyashnoi kvar b'poil b'goloi. It's already here and it's already revealed. V'tzrichem rak liftoyach hasanayim. You just open your eyes to see it. He gave you already the eyes. In other words, let me explain just a little thought. Okay, please bear with me. A Lubavitcher walks down the street and here's someone speaking Hebrew. My Hungarian relatives from Williamsburg see this person, and if they're giving a thought, they're thinking, and I know even family members that even that's the language. Oh, vuzuk the pasha. What does a pasha say? Pasha, I know it in the family. Someone said, like, not a pasha. Pasha means rebellious Jews who are. That's called a pasha. You see a guy who's is coming out of a bar or out of a place, and he just had from a Burger King, and he sees a guy like that. You see a balaveda. That's what your eye sees. Lubavitcher sees that. This is a potential film. This made my day. This guy, this is the yid. We see differently. We look at a Jew without a ponytail with piercings. We don't see the piercing, the tattoos. We see a nefesh mamish who's waiting to put on tefillin. And Baruch Hashem, I'm here that I can, and I'm zoiche that this yid should allow me to put on tefillin on him. That's a sense that the Rebbe gave us. Because for 40 years, the Rebbe changed our eyes and gave us Lubavitcher eyes. He gave us the eyes of the Alter Rebbe. He gave us the eyes of the Baal Shem Tov to see a Yid for what he is. So it's not stunned. It's not like you're seeing the same thing. We're not even seeing the same person. The people that are not used to looking this way see the tattoos, see the Aveda, see the Avari, and we're seeing a Yid. Meaning a yid, we're seeing a potential tefillin, we're seeing a tinnik shanishba, but we're not even looking at the tinnik shanishba. We're just seeing a potential to do a mitzvah. That's how we've taught us. So just like we have chassidisha oigen, and the Rebbe taught us how to look at Yidden and so on and so forth. In the same way, the Rebbe is telling us that we can look at the entire world and not see any more the klippus and the darkness. And these are all the old Golos in Yarnim. We can start seeing the world through the eyes of Geula. Seeing the world with Mashiach the Geoigen. And then no matter what we look at and what we see. And what happens when you meet this Karkafta Jew who continues pretending that he's not interested, and know it's not for him, and he's a non-believer. So we don't take it. I mean, if you're a little bit of an aggressive, well, today I had Shmuley Shapiro, and he was telling, when you got like him, he doesn't take it. He doesn't take that whatever, from anybody. Don't tell me this. You're putting on film. You're going to do it because don't tell me that you're a non-believer. Do bistayid. And we know that, and we know that the person is lying to us. And because we call the facade, and because we cause the lie that he's pretending the lie, so ultimately we strip away that lie, and and it only works. And why does it work when Lubavitchers are doing it that way? Other people that are not Chabadniks have a much harder time to get someone to put on film, because they're not looking with those eyes. When you look with these eyes on a Yid, you make it much harder for the person to continue pretending that he is wherever he is. So the Rebbe is putting on our eyes, Geula diga eyes. The Rebbe says, I taught you already how to see Mashiach. You know what Geula is. You know that Elokus. You know what it means. If you know what it means, you can see Geula in everything. And if you look at the world that way, and you look at everything that way, you'll start seeing the Eberster in everything, and you'll start seeing that everybody's really ready for Mashiach. And if they're claiming not so, they're lying. And it doesn't take much, because the more you're convinced in it, the more you'll be able to reveal that emes in that person. So what I saw, an interesting idea, and I'm going to, what's his name? The one who made the Sefer in Yonishal Mashiach, which is a phenomenal Sefer, which, by the way, was what opened up my eyes to all of this, because I was kind of very comfortable in continuing Tafshin Lamed 1970 Chabad in Afatas Hamayones and Mein Yisrael and so on and so forth. Wasn't Mariska felt to start becoming so fanatic about Mashiach, when what's wrong with just, we're Faratzta, spreading Hasidus, but Samayones, so on and so forth. I learned that Sefer. And what he does is an incredible service, because he takes the entire Rebbe from all the years, and he just shows you the thread that runs through it all. And he shows you how from the very beginning it's Mashiach, and he builds it and so structured by all the sichos and so on. You see it, but he takes it to the very end. So in that Sefer, he addresses, he has one chapter on this. He says a very interesting idea. He says all the things that the Rebbe keeps on mentioning over here, that the Rebbe says we should open our eyes and see. The Rebbe is not talking about fantasies. That's why we have to be very careful. There's emes and there's could be fantasy. For example, the Rebbe doesn't say the third Beis Hamikdash is here, because it's not. The third Beis did not come down in Hashemayim. It's not here yet. The Rebbe is not saying that kibbutz Goliath happened. We should realize that we're all in Eretz Yisrael. After Noif the Oigin, you're going to see that we're all in Eretz Yisrael. The Rebbe doesn't say we're all in Eretz Yisrael. What the Rebbe does say is we're all sitting al Shulchan Aviyah. That every Yid is sitting al Shulchan Aviyah. The Rebbe says that all Yidden are that Mashiach is here. Mashiach Tzidkenu is here. The Rebbe says we have already the Shoyr HaBoid and the Levios. He says the interesting thing about all these things that the Rebbe keeps on mentioning these four things. We're sitting at Shulchan Aviyah. We're sitting with Mashiach Tzidkenu by the table, and we have the Shoyr HaBoid, the Levios, and the Yain HaMashulin. That's what the Rebbe said. Here's the interesting thing about all these things that all these things are really things that are not going to be mischadesh when Mashiach comes. They're not new things that have to happen after the Giyur. These are all things that be'etzem are there all along during all the time. Now, the fact that a Yid is sitting by the Eibishter's table, what does that mean? The Rebbe explains over here. What does it mean you're sitting by the Eibishter's table? It means that you and the Eibishter are one. That's why you're sitting by his table. By his table, he sits by his table. And what are you doing by the table? Because you're the Eibishter's child, and you're one with him. That's why you're by his table. Now, this that we and the Eibishter are one, is this something that's going to happen when Mashiach comes, or this is something that's be'etzem there all along, that a Yid with the Eibishter are one? What does it mean the Eibishter sends us away from his table? Yisrael shagolu m'shulchan aviyah. Yisrael shagolu m'shulchan aviyah means that our consciousness has darkened, that we get blockages. Golus creates blockages. And therefore, because all these blockages happen, it creates in us an illusion that God has abandoned us, that we're far and we're low and we're dark and he's angry and we are miserable creatures and so on and so forth. And that's the wall that's mafsik, and that's why we're millions away, miles away. But in emes, does a Yid really ever be distant from the Eibishter? No. When Mashiach will come, all this psychological darkness that has been blocking us all these years will evaporate, and we will realize that we're sitting together with him. We were always together with him. We were never separated from the Eibishter, kibabas einoi, and we're sitting by his table. The Rebbe is saying that Inyan now you can actually achieve it, live that way in your consciousness, because now there's no more real klipa blocking you from seeing this emes. In other words, for thousands of years, as long as there was taka agolus, so even though mitzad the Eibishter were always in a sense sitting at his table, mitzad the emes shebe emes, but mitzad our darkness, we weren't able to see it. The Rebbe says already, we've done the avoid already. So that Inyan, you can realize how close you are to the Eibishter. So if that's true, just start realizing that you are close to the Eibishter. Don't look at yourself as someone. And when you realize that you're so close to the Eibishter, be careful how you're moving your body, what you're doing. Your body is mamash. You're sitting by the Eibishter's table, you got to behave over here. So you live a little bit differently. Obviously, it means a very, very powerful hidur in kiyum mitzvahs and in everything that's meaningful to the Eibishter and keeping away from all the narishkeit. But it has to do with the rewiring of our mind that we are already we're so attached, we're so godly. And when the Rebbe says, for instance, Mashiach Tzidkenu, we're sitting with him. The Rebbe explains in many sichas that there was always a Mashiach throughout all generations. So throughout all the generations, we were together with Mashiach Tzidkenu. There was always Mashiach Tzidkenu amongst the Jewish people. It was only that because of the Golus, that whoever was that Mashiach was hidden. Since we got closer to Mashiach, in the days of the Baal Shem Tov, The Moshiach of the generation started shining. The Jewish people can already know who the Moshiach is. So they knew the Baal Shem Tov, kind of a Baal Shem Tov figure. So whether it was these Hasidim, the Ruzhiner Hasidim were swearing that it was the Ruzhiner, the Heilige Ruzhiner, and so on and so forth. And it's true. Since the Baal Shem Tov came in real Admurim was the Nitzutz of Mashiach. Which exactly one was it going to be? In Chabad, we say it was our Rabbeim. Fine. And we know that. And then as it got closer, the Rebbe Rashab started speaking openly and started telling us that Mir Zenen for Malchus Beis David and my army is Malchus David. So it started to become more tangible and more revealed. So the Rebbe is saying that these things are here. So till now it was concealed. Now you can open your eyes and realize that Mashiach Tzidkenu is talking with us. And as we can identify Mashiach Mamish, he's with us. He's here. Till now it was some obscure figure that was hidden, and maybe even we weren't even aware that there was a Mashiach amongst us. Now we could. How about Shoida Bar and Levias? So here's the thing. Chazal tells us to Shoida Bar and Levias have always been around. In other words, we're not dealing with the new phenomenon that's going to fall out of the sky when Mashiach comes. The Leviasan and the Yayin HaMeshumar is somewhere. It exists in the world already. The Leviasan is a fish that the Eibishter was already maleach this fish. He salted this fish. He pickled this fish already when? But then it's from the 6 days of creation. So the Shara Bar, I don't know exactly what it says about the old history of the Shara Bar, but at least the Leviasan and the Ayin HaMeshumar, we're dealing with stuff that have always been around. So we're not talking about something new that's going to happen when Mashiach comes. Tchias HaMesim. The Rebbe doesn't say, you know what I'm saying is, the Rebbe doesn't tell us in the Sichos. Yayin HaMeshumar means it's wine that has been kept from the. Now, the Rebbe is not saying over here, open your eyes and see all your dead relatives are alive. Why doesn't he say that? Open your eyes. Because that didn't happen. And that is meant to happen only in a certain time. And the Rebbe is not telling us to live in fantasies. But what the Rebbe is telling us is that the things that are Mashiach-dig and Geuladig in the world, you can start seeing it, living it, breathing it. It's just that you can start enjoying it. You can start realizing these are just emissative things. It's just that what's keeping us now is just a little bit, it's just an old wiring of our own minds in the wrong way that we're still holding on to in Gullus mentality. Let me share with you a picture. Okay, I'll pass this around the room for a minute, and it will give you a little bit of an illustration of what I'm thinking. Okay, here we go. I'm going to share the picture, take a look at it just for 1 minute. And after you look at it, don't say anything. Just take a look and tell me afterwards. I'll ask you. I just want you to look at the picture for a minute. Don't be Mashiach das from what. Okay, the clay. Take a look and just tell me what you see. Just pass the phone down. Yeah, it's a famous thing, but take a look at it and tell me what you saw. Don't tell me yet. Wait till we pass it along to everybody. What do you see in that picture? Look at it and just take a look. See the share of it. I have to use this one. There's other ones, but there's a reason I use this one. And now let us discuss what you're seeing. Come on, Yankel, stop looking. Get back, kick, schnell kick and finish. Finish kicking as long as they see it. Look, weiter gegangen. Okay. Oh, there we go. What's that? What's up? Just look. Okay. How many people saw a person? How many people saw a human being in that picture? A human. A mensch, a human. Wait, okay. How many people saw an animal? Okay, no one saw an animal. How many people amongst you saw a male in that picture? A male meaning a man. How many people saw a woman? Okay. How many how many people saw a old woman in the picture? An old woman. An old woman, yeah. How many people saw a young lady? Okay. This was an artist made this picture in the 1800s, 1860. And it went famous when it was going around all over this picture. And they did a survey, they were looking, and they showed it to many, many people. Young people, mostly it turned out that young people saw a young lady. Older people, not older, people saw an older woman. And if you take a look at the picture, I mean, now when I looked this up last week while I was giving the shiur, I put an optical. I remember this picture once. I once saw it in a museum, and so I looked it up, and I saw the old woman as well. And I'm looking, but I knew that I had to study it for like a half a minute or longer, or maybe even I had to read the description, and that's what gave it to me. Basically, the nose of the old woman, if you realign the picture, is the chin of a young woman looking the other direction. So one is a young woman looking that way, and one is an old woman looking sideways. And the chin, which would be this, is a long nose from like an old raggedy woman. These are the two pictures. The interesting thing is that young people, who have generally a youthful outlook, saw naturally the young person. The people, it's the same, those that were older saw the older one. And that's not necessarily always, but that's kind of what they got. And that's really what the Rebbe is saying. We're living now in a time, there has to be Bechir. The Eibishter doesn't want to take away Bechir. Even the coming of Mashiach and even the Izgalus of Mashiach can't be imposed upon us. It has to be something that we choose to see. So we have to choose to see Geula. And when we internally are living from a very Geula-digga place within us, if we identify within ourselves Mashiach, we're living from a deep Mashiach-digga place, then we look around the world and we're seeing Geula in all people. We're seeing Geula in all objects. We're seeing a Nakuda of Eibishter wherever we're looking. And then we're actually living a very happy life. Because even with sometimes all the crazy stuff that are going on, I'll give you an example. Last week, someone called me, and it happened in the same week, and I said, wow, look at the difference of perspective. I can explain another reason psychologically why there was this. And he was complaining, we're finishing right now. The person said an amazing thing. He complained to me that he moved out to a certain place and for a job, and he's having a very hard time. I asked him, why are you having such a hard time? He said, because I can't find the job that he has requires him to hire workers. He can't hire any workers. The laborers no one wants to work. And he's going crazy because he can't run his job. He's a new person hired for a job. He can't do work because he doesn't have laborers. The same week, I get just see this. I'm going to share with you. Just that I'm not hacking you in China. I'm not making up anything. I get a voice note from someone who knows that I'm excited about Mashiach, and one of the people that they hold on. Give me 1 second. Okay, yeah.
Rabbi Wolf, how are you? Everything's well. I wanted to share with you, just a brief idea, maybe you can expand on it, but that in the world, we're really watching a revolution in many ways. It's a slow-moving revolution, so it's like you don't realize the water moving, but the water is moving. Anyway, one aspect or component of it is truly this labor shortage that's been going on for the last several months. And everybody's blaming it on all kinds of things, but the bottom line is that people don't want to be slaves. They don't want to work for horrible bosses. They don't want to work for minimum or close to minimum wage or wages that don't actually get them where they feel they need to be in life. They don't pay for the things that they need to be. They want to be paying for. So they don't want to be in Golos. So people are saying, the Hamoin Am, the whole world is saying, we don't want to be slaves. We don't want to be in Golos. We want to be in a state of Geula. Anyway, very applicable now.
I'm going to share with me. So it was the same week. So it's the same week where someone is calling me Gewalt.
Gates.
Hold on.
You know,
the guy is calling me Gewalt. I can't find workers. I don't know what to do. And he's living because he's holding on to the need. I understand it. He's living in the world. Stop a minute. Because no one wants to work anymore. The that's the Asa Kol Olam. That's what's going to be when Mashiach comes. Why is no one? The whole defund the police? It seems on the one hand you can see it as the cities are going crazy. The police are the people are screaming. The Hamoinam. We're talking about the air. They say we don't want. It's crazy. Yeah, because our avoid is to tell all these people, you guys want Mashiach. You realize that the time of enlightenment will come, a time when you won't be a slave for $1, a time where so much goodness is that computer will take over all the regular labor jobs. We will all be pursuing a higher level of knowledge. If we would speak up to the world and find the right messages, then all this that is happening already will just be channeled to its truth. See, these are organic movements that are happening, which are representing Mashiach, but it's just not translated in the consciousness of everybody as a Mashiach Beginyan. It's true about defund the police. It's true about the labor shortage. And just from the little things, I was dancing by my daughter's wedding, and the waitress was walking by, and someone pushed her. This happened right. I don't remember who I was talking to. And suddenly the whole tray of cake fell down, and it was like, and she felt so terrible. She's telling me, "Oi, oi, oi, oi," and she wants to clean it up. And I said, my first reaction, Madana Mitzuyim Kofas. Look on the floor. Think of there's all kinds of cupcakes, brownies all over, and they're on the floor. We have to start thinking that our natural reaction to everything we see is what it says in Rambam, what it says Moshiach, what it says Geula, and then you'll hear it in every negative story. You'll hear it in every person. You'll hear it in every single thing that people are saying. And that's where the Rebbe wanted us to live in, to start seeing it and living that way, just like the Rebbe rewired us regarding how to look at a Yid and having a Hasidish. The outlook of Hasidus is different eyes. Moshiach's eyes is a different. And what's the main Nakuda? The main Nakuda is that nothing needs to be changed anymore. Everything that we needed to change was changed already. Now the only thing is that people need the awareness and the consciousness of what this time is, so they should start identifying with it and start living in that life. And once these things happen, the more we convince, now how many people do you need? So, I'll just finish with one last thought. We know that it says in Chassidus, and Arizal said it, when the Bes Yosef was very perplexed, I think it was, or the Alshich, or was one of them, was very perplexed, I think it was the Bes Yosef, that he was trying to crack a certain teretz for a certain kasha that he had when he was learning, a very difficulty, and he had a hard time, and after days, he finally cracked it. And then he heard two people learning, and they offered the answer that he finally came up with. And he was very, very bothered by it. He said, "What's wrong with me? I have such a verstopfte cup, I have such a dense head." And the Arizal said that once something is revealed in the cosmos, people start picking it up and say, once people make a new innovation, you have to patent it very fast, because other people will also come up with that same thing. The more people start living with a Mashiach consciousness, with a Mashiach awareness, and identify Mashiach in every single, you need just a certain critical mass, which is not that much, that it starts creating certain vibes and certain ways, and other people will automatically start picking it up and start seeing the world in this positive element. And there are so many people in Goyim today that live with such a Mashiach consciousness. It's incredible. We have so many people. It's just a matter of us kind of. So that's our avodah that Rebbe says. That's Chassidim. Now that it's 30 years later, it's about time for sure that we tap into all of this. L'chaim, Olu Bracha, Yasher Koach.